She was sunshine on film. Every frame glowed when she moved, but the light that made her famous came at a cost no one saw coming. Farrah Fawcett, the woman who turned a simple red swimsuit into an American legend, was living a story the cameras were never meant to capture. Behind the poster, behind the gloss of Charlie's Angels, hid a woman fighting to reclaim herself from the image that owned her. Why would someone adored by millions risk everything to step out of that spotlight? Stay to the end, because Farrah's truth wasn't in what she showed us. It was in what she refused to hide anymore. She came from Texas, where the light was hard and honest. Born in Corpus Christi in 1947, Farrah Lenny Fawcett grew up with oil fields on the horizon and a father who expected toughness from his daughters. Her mother, Pauline, kept order in a small, modest home. Farrah was shy, the kind of girl teachers described as polite but watchful. In photographs from her teenage years, there's already that unmistakable glow and easy smile. Eyes that seemed to promise something better just outside the frame. She wasn't chasing fame. In fact, when she went to the University of Texas at Austin, she planned to study microbiology before switching to art. She painted, sculpted, and took photos long before anyone put a camera on her. It was art, not fame, that came naturally. But in 1968, a Hollywood publicist visiting the campus noticed her picture pinned on a bulletin board. He told her she had a face that could sell anything. Within weeks, agents from William Morris were calling. She'd never been to California, but they wanted her for commercials, maybe even film. According to college friends, Farrah hesitated. Her father reportedly told her, "Hollywood's full of heartbreak." But curiosity won. She boarded a flight to Los Angeles with 2 suitcases and a head full of hope. That moment, naive, impulsive, bold, would define her forever. When she arrived, the city was in transition. The studio system had collapsed, and television was the new frontier. Producers were searching for faces that looked real but radiant, and Farrah was exactly that. She started in commercials: Noxzema shaving cream, Ultra Bright toothpaste, Wella Balsam shampoo. In each spot, her smile lit up the screen like it had been waiting for this world all along. Casting directors noticed. She had something almost paradoxical, sensual yet wholesome, confident but approachable. But what Hollywood sold as natural was, in truth, carefully constructed. Stylists rehearsed every strand of her now famous hair. Camera crews measured light angles around her face, and agents decided which roles she could refuse. To the public, she was effortless. Privately, she was already learning how tightly the industry held its women. She wanted to audition for The Last Picture Show, a raw Texas drama directed by Peter Bogdanovich. But her agents reportedly said it wasn't appropriate. She was steered toward guest roles in safe television: The Flying Nun, Mayberry RFD, I Dream of Jeannie. She smiled through all of it, quietly taking notes. Later, she said, "You learn that being good isn't enough. You have to survive their idea of you." Then came Lee Majors, the clean-cut television star with a jawline sculpted for prime time. They met through mutual friends in 1968 and married 3 years later. To Hollywood, they looked like a dream couple, a real-life Barbie and Ken of the small screen. But as Farrah's career began to rise, tension crept in. Lee's friends described him as protective. Others called it possessive. She was expected to prioritize his career, attend functions, stay polished. Even as her roles got better, her schedule revolved around his. According to one biographer, Majors once limited her dinner invitations so she wouldn't burn out. Farrah smiled publicly, but began to chafe under the control. It was Lee, ironically, who introduced her to the opportunity that would change everything. He arranged a meeting with producer Aaron Spelling, who was casting a new show about 3 glamorous female detectives. The concept sounded flimsy, but Spelling saw what others hadn't. Farrah's magnetism wasn't about perfection. It was energy, bright, relatable, confident without arrogance. She got the role of Jill Monroe, the athletic California blonde who would anchor Charlie's Angels. When Charlie's Angels debuted in 1976, America fell in love overnight. The show's premise, 3 women working for an unseen boss named Charlie, was lightweight, but Farrah made it sparkle. She performed her own stunts, ad-libbed playful lines, and turned what could have been fluff into pop culture gold. Within weeks, her poster was everywhere. The famous red swimsuit shot taken in her own backyard by photographer Bruce McBroom became the most sold poster in history. 12 million copies. The image was pure fantasy. Farrah smiling, sunlit, unguarded. But as she later revealed, that smile hit exhaustion. She said, "The poster girl became me, but she wasn't me." Behind the scenes, the fame became suffocating. Her days on set stretched 16 hours. The network demanded constant photo shoots. Journalists followed her car, desperate for a glimpse of America's sweetheart. She couldn't buy groceries without flashbulbs bursting. Farrah, who had come to Hollywood to be an artist, realized she was being packaged as an accessory. She started asking uncomfortable questions about scripts, pay, and creative control topics that for women in 1970s television were taboo. By season's end, she'd had enough. In 1977, despite warnings from everyone around her, Farrah quit Charlie's Angels. The reaction was nuclear. ABC sued her for breach of contract. Aaron Spelling reportedly called her the most foolish girl in Hollywood. Newspapers mocked her decision. But Farrah stood firm. "I had to leave before I lost myself," she said. The industry saw rebellion. She saw survival. Few actresses of her era had dared to defy the system so publicly. She took roles that confused her critics. The crime thriller, Somebody Killed Her Husband, 1978. The sci-fi oddity, Saturn III, 1980. Reviews were mixed, but one truth emerged. Farrah wasn't chasing glamour anymore. She was chasing depth. Her personal life mirrored that shift. Her marriage to Majors disintegrated under the weight of distance and changing ambitions. By 1979, they separated. Soon after, she met Ryan O'Neal. Ryan was everything Farrah wasn't. Volatile, cynical, self-destructive. Their chemistry was undeniable, magnetic even. Friends compared them to Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor, passionate and doomed. They fought publicly, loved intensely, and forgave often. But there was tenderness too. Ryan later said, "She was the love of my life. I just didn't always know how to love her right." Throughout the 1980s, Farrah worked relentlessly to reinvent herself. She began choosing scripts that terrified her, roles that exposed rather than flattered. In 1984, she starred in The Burning Bed, playing a battered wife who sets her abusive husband on fire. The project, based on a true story, shocked audiences. Farrah had never been so stripped of glamour, her hair matted, her face bruised, her eyes hollow. Critics called it a revelation. The film was nominated for 8 Emmys. And Farrah earned her first nomination. What few knew was how personal the story felt to her. Friends say she poured her own experiences of control and fear into that performance. The set became a form of catharsis. The film didn't just change her career, it changed the conversation around domestic violence in America. Shelters reported record calls the week it aired. Suddenly, Farrah wasn't a poster anymore. She was a voice. She followed that with Extremities 1986, another emotionally brutal role. This time on stage and screen. Playing a rape victim who turns on her attacker, she once again blurred the line between vulnerability and vengeance. The New York Times praised her for discipline and fire. But the Hollywood machine didn't know what to do with this new Farrah. She wasn't marketable in the old way, and the roles she wanted were written for men. By the 1990s, she drifted between television movies and art projects. She began sculpting and painting again, displaying her work in small LA galleries. Critics were dismissive, but Farrah insisted she wasn't seeking approval anymore. "Art doesn't talk back," she once joked. Beneath the humor was a quiet defiance, the need to create without being consumed. Still, her relationship with Ryan remained chaotic. They never married, though they shared a son, Redmond, born in 1985. Ryan's temper, combined with Redmond's later legal troubles, brought endless tabloid attention. "We were like magnets," Farrah said, "and magnets don't choose what they attract." Yet, no matter how often they broke up, they always found their way back to each other. In 1997, she appeared on The Late Show with David Letterman in an interview that became infamous. Disoriented, giggling, and erratic, Farrah appeared disconnected from reality. Audiences mocked her, calling it a meltdown, but those close to her claimed she'd been deeply hurt by how the media framed her, especially after years of trying to be taken seriously. Watching it now, you see something else. A woman who'd been performing for too long, suddenly refusing to play along. "It wasn't crazy," she later said. "It was me saying no without words." After that, she receded from Hollywood. She focused on her art, her family, and later, philanthropy. She established the Farrah Fawcett Foundation to support cancer research and prevention, a cause that would become heartbreakingly personal. In 2006, her world shifted again. Doctors diagnosed her with anal cancer. The irony was cruel, a disease so stigmatized that most patients hid it entirely. But Farrah didn't hide. She chose to document her treatment in real time, producing the raw, unfiltered documentary Farrah's Story with longtime friend Alana Stewart. The footage showed everything: the tears, the hospital gowns, the fear in her eyes. There was no makeup, no lighting, no performance, just Farrah, facing mortality with grace that stunned even her doctors. She sought experimental treatments in Germany, hoping for a miracle. Paparazzi followed her every step, turning her private struggle into a spectacle. Still, she kept her humor. When asked by a journalist why she was filming it, she replied, "Because maybe it helps someone else not be afraid." The documentary aired in 2009, watched by more than 9 million viewers. It earned Emmy nominations and praise for its unflinching honesty. For once, the public saw not the angel, not the sex symbol, but the fighter. Ryan O'Neal returned to her side in those final months. Their love, broken and mended countless times, found quiet peace at last. He later said she told him, "Don't mourn me too long. I'll see you when I see you." On June 25, 2009, Farrah Fawcett died at St. John's Health Center in Santa Monica. She was 62. The timing was brutal. Just hours later, news broke that Michael Jackson had died. Her passing was overshadowed globally, yet those who knew her understood the symmetry. Two icons of light and shadow, both victims of fame's unforgiving machinery, leaving the stage on the same day. In the years since, Farrah's story has softened into legend. New generations know the image, the hair, the smile, the swimsuit, but fewer understand the woman. She was more complex than her posters suggested. A quiet rebel, a survivor of the system she helped build. Her art exhibits, once dismissed, have been reappraised. Her foundation continues to fund cancer research worldwide, keeping her fight alive. And maybe that's how she wanted it. Farrah once said, "I didn't come here to be famous. I came to matter." When you look back now, her life reads like a parable of Hollywood itself, a place that worships perfection but is built on pain. The girl from Texas conquered the world, lost herself in the glare, and somehow found her truth in the end. We still see her on dorm walls and vintage t-shirts, smiling from another lifetime. But look closer, and that smile isn't what it used to be. It's not innocence, it's resilience. A silent message from someone who learned that beauty fades, but courage doesn't. If you remember anything from her story, remember this: Farrah Fawcett's greatest performance wasn't on screen. It was how she faced the world, broken, luminous, unafraid. And that's why, even now when the light hits her photograph just right, she still feels alive. If stories like this speak to you about fame, love, loss, and the strength to stay true, subscribe, stay curious, and remember, behind every perfect picture lies a fight you'll never forget.